We're going to record this, and we will put this on our website so you can watch it in the future. So, Yolanda, would you like to say just a couple words real quick?
Thank you, Joe. Just want to extend a very warm welcome to all of you for joining us this morning. And I hope you enjoy your morning as well as all that we're going to be learning from John. Thank you and enjoy.
Thank you, Yolanda. Appreciate it. And our CEO is on the phone, is on the line with us here also, Lori Fahey. Lori, would you like to say anything before we get started?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Some of you I can recognize by your names. Others, I hope that we'll become real good friends soon. So welcome, and I hope you have a good couple hours.
Thanks, Lori. I appreciate it. And so we're going to let John introduce himself. For those of you who don't know John, a good friend of ours. We do a lot of work with John. We hope this will be a really helpful time for you. And again, we appreciate you all being here. John, take it away, man.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Good to see all of you joining today. Thank you for your time. I guess let's just make sure everything is technically sound here. Is my screen showing with?
Yes.
Okay, great. Everyone can see this. So in a second, I'm just going to review a little bit more about FROM. I do want to point out again that FROM is a program. It's a movement. It's an initiative inside the Family Cafe. And if you are new to the Family Cafe, welcome. It's a fantastic resource. And when you find their website, you'll see the link a little bit later in the presentation. There are just so many wonderful resources and people all kind of like-minded and trying to do the same thing as we are all doing, which is elevate family-run organizations, peer-run organizations, youth-run organizations. And so it's a great resource, so be sure to check them out. And Lori paid me to give her that plug, so anyway.
Yeah,
so
well, here's the thing. I didn't pay you enough. It's familycafe.net is the website.
Yes, and that link's in here. You'll see it in the website or on the presentation. So, all right, well, I'm coming to you from sunny this morning, Hastings, Nebraska, roughly the center of the United States. And I've been kind of connected with the Family Cafe for about 10 years now. And so I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to speak to you about this concept of fundraising like a pro and in the context of this FROM initiative. So let me tell you a little bit more about FROM, and you'll get to know my style as we go along here. Hopefully, I see a lot of returning faces, so that makes me feel okay. And that saw my name and decided, well, we'll give this guy at least one more time chance to learn something. And you will notice I don't have the beard. I shaved that off. The picture in the flyer, I think that was last year. So coming to you clean shaven from Nebraska. Anyway, all right, so FROM's role. Joe kind of mentioned this already a little bit, so I'm going to move through this very quickly. I just wanted to give you this background because it is important. We're basically, in a way, showcasing what FROM is by this presentation, and so that's an important connection for you to make. You'll see on the screen these bullet points, really what FROM is trying to do. That second bullet point is really important. It's kind of the culmination of everything due when many more family-run organizations build their capacity in a lot of different ways. They all become strong and effective partners in Florida's system of care. Now, FROM is a Florida initiative. However, it does have national scope just because the Family Cafe is national. And the principles, I guess, that FROM espouses and puts out there through people like myself and other technical assistance providers and presentations, that it obviously is relevant nationally. So I know there are people from all over the country watching today. So we're glad we could share this Florida initiative with you. So I think Joe already mentioned FROM's mission. You'll see it in the slide again. If you did not receive these documents, by the way, you can email Joe McCann right now. and I believe it's JMCCANN at familycafe.net, and he will
Correct.
send you these documents, because we want you to have these documents, because there's a lot of information in them. I will not be reading every word, and we'll be moving pretty quickly. So,
Hey, John, can
we
I
want you to
interrupt you and
have-
just say one quick thing? So I
Sure.
sent the documents to everybody that I heard from as of yesterday. But we will be sharing everything that we emailed out. So everything that I emailed to everybody is going to be on your screen here. And yet, like I said, like he mentioned, you can email me. I'll send it to you right away, or I can send it to you after as well. So.
Okay, so you'll see Fromm's vision, there's 4 components to it, and this is what this initiative is really trying to do. A lot of organizational development and training, fundraising, sustainability. You'll see that that's highlighted in blue because that's today's focus. They also do a lot kind of in the realm of advocacy. And then number 4 is kind of this internal focus. It's part of their vision to just basically be a very well-run initiative and program. And given that it's inside the Family Cafe, they do a good job with that. The leaders of this initiative that you saw on the earlier screen, I can't say enough about them and how good they are. And Yolanda does a very nice job as the chairperson of that committee. So thanks to all of you for making this a successful initiative. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to bring to you this agenda. This is what we're going to talk about today. I'm just going to do a quick review of the nonprofit path to sustainability. That was the last presentation that we did as a pre-conference to the Family Cafe virtual conference that occurred in June. And I believe that presentation was is available on the Family Cafe's website as well. And then we'll get into securing funding like a pro. I've got some quick definitions, and then I'm going to take you through the steps. Now, I'll be honest, I'm going to tell you up front, there are 1,000 billion ways to secure funding, go about it. It's a sales process, right? So there's no one presentation from any one person who can give you all the bullets that you could use in your gun to go shoot and kill, go hunting for that revenue, right? So what I want to say to you then is that today's presentation is how I do it. And that's really the best I can do is take you kind of inside the mind, my mind, and share with you how I go about pursuing funding and provide as much information as I can. And even in 2 hours, we will still just be scratching the surface. I get frustrated personally when I see presentations that are really super high level and fluffy, and there's a couple bullet points and the person talks, and then you're like, oh yeah, this is great. And then you get done and you can't go replicate any of that. That hopefully is not going to be the case today with my stuff. But again, we're still going to be pretty high level. But I did create a lot of tools that have been sent out in Word document versions so that you can actually open them up and type in them, so they're not PDFs. And again, I'm just going to kind of tell you what I do and give you some examples as we go through it. We'll take questions after each of these steps, and just kind of get through this together. Little bit about myself, just so you know. I am a family member with lived experience, and for those of you maybe not familiar with that phrase, family member, it's a pretty powerful 2-word phrase. It means that you're someone who is living with either a personal lived experience in some challenge. It could be really any type of disability. I've been working in the mental health realm in the last several years with the Family Cafe. But a family member, is anyone connected to someone with a disability across the entire range of disabilities. And so I happen to have a couple of daughters who are just managing their own mental health challenges. And so that's been part of my journey. I have been a capacity building consultant for just about 25 years now. Cannot believe it's been that long. And I've enjoyed every client I've worked with. My style is really to get pretty personal. I guess I'm an artist at heart. When I get involved in a project, I take it on as mine. I wear your team's colors, whatever metaphor you want to use. I kind of get in and get my hands dirty and sometimes say the things that you don't want to hear. I've been fired by clients that didn't like what I said, but I slept well because I said what needed to be said. So anyway, those stories are for a different time. I do the specialization in capacity building for voice-driven organizations, particularly family-run and peer-run organizations. My presentation style, so I do provide a lot of information. I try to. I don't do a whole lot of flashy stuff because we have a short time together and I really value your time. So this will probably, for some of you who've never seen my presentation, you're going to say, oh my gosh, he has too many words on his slides. He talks too fast, tell too many stories maybe. Bottom line is I want to give you as much as I can. And then knowing that we're only scratching the surface, I sincerely am inviting you to get in touch with me. You'll see my contact information at the end. It's not a problem to set up an hour appointment by phone, Skype, Zoom, whatever, just to learn about your particular situation, talk through everything you're going to hear today. How does it apply to your organization? Do I have any nuggets or kernels of wisdom I might be able to share with you in your unique situation? So please don't hesitate to get in touch with me either directly or through Joe. I'm happy to do that. So that being said, again, we're going to go move quickly. I only have you for a little bit of time. I'll try to make it somewhat entertaining, and then we'll just kind of jump into it. All right. So I said this is about as flashy as I get. Okay. So you'll see Don Quixote and Sancho riding off on their quest to defeat the windmills. And if you're not familiar with the story, this is a guy who he's a romantic at heart, and he goes and he jousts windmills because they are large dragons, and it's in his imagination, but it's a beautiful story. What I take away from it and why you'll see behind me, that's the actual picture, why this is important to me is because we are on a quest. A quest typically implies a challenge, something very difficult. At the micro level, sales is a difficult process, and it takes a lot of tools and know-how and a certain personality, which, by the way, if you are not a salesperson, that's okay. What you're going to learn today is a lot about the sales process, and it's going to help you identify, if you're not that salesperson, it's going to help you identify who you can work with in your organization. Maybe it's one of your board members, maybe it's a staff person, could be a volunteer. You might need to find money to hire someone. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to find that right personality to take today's tools and insights and run with it inside your organization. But that's a quest, and it's something we do because we're passionate, and we have the sense of purpose, and we're not going to give up. And we also, very importantly, are supports. We are Sancho to each other. And I hope that means a lot to people when they hear that. And when you really stop to think about it, the things we are able to do as family-run organizations and peers is that we support each other. We're there for each other on each other's quests. And I think that's one of the really cool things about the Family Cafe and the family-run organization movement. All right, so I guess I won't break what do you call it? I guess the screen sharing at the moment, but I will ask Joe, are there any immediate questions coming in on chat about? Nothing yet? Okay.
No, we're good.
All right. So this is one of the PDFs that I sent along. and Joe put out to everyone, and you'll see at the very bottom, there's the link to familycafe.net, and it happens to have the / from, because that'll take you directly to the tab, but that's inside familycafe.net, the website. So there it is. This little diagram basically was the essence of what I presented back in the Family Cafe's pre-conference, talking about how do you go from an idea on the far left side, this creation of this concept of something you're passionate about, all the way through sustainability. And we did talk about how you could, if you were an advanced organization and you've been around for years, you've got funding, you have contracts, that there still is a usefulness to this model, because whether you're starting a new program or you're a new initiative, whatever it might be, this pattern of thinking is what's valuable. And so it's up to you to decide when and how to apply this pattern of thinking. An idea, you create it, you do what's necessary to do kind of the startup, get things in place, you pilot initial concepts, you go through growth, because after that pilot, you're able to take those small successes and say, hey, somebody, don't you want more of this? You find a little bit more funding, you grow it. And then you've got a proven track record. And that's when you get to the point where you say, okay, we can start touting and proving or sharing our proven track record. And that's what starts to attract investment. Because ultimately, we all know that whether it's a foundation, a state agency leader, a philanthropist, anybody who's going to consider placing money into your care, that's exactly what they're doing. It's your care. They want to see that you have that capacity to do great things with the money that they want to give to you. So that's the important principle that's behind what we're going to talk about today. And again, that presentation is available at the familycafe.net's website. So what is sustainability then? And again, just my style, a lot of words. I'm not going to read through these slides. I encourage you, I know the temptation might be to read every word on the slide and try to listen to me talk, and that can be very difficult. So that's one thing I kind of think about, is like, well, am I causing some blockage on for the viewers when they see all these words and they're trying to listen to me talk? I can assure you that I will move through the slide verbally, summarizing things without having to read everything. But these slides are like this so that after the presentation is done, you can go back and flip through these and say, oh, wow, that's exactly what he was saying. It's all there. So it's kind of like a script. It's halfway between a script and a presentation. So what I'm talking about here in the slide is that there are key concepts to sustainability. You have to deliver value. That's in your services and products and outcomes and so forth. It generates revenue, which can take different forms. And then you want to be able to do it consistently. And so when you're able to do it consistently in a planned way, so that you've targeted certain initiatives and matched them up with donors, they're well planned, and you can project that into the future, and people are making investments, they're choosing to place funding in your care. That's when, if you can say all these things, that's when you know you are sustainable. It's an elusive concept. I mean, on a surface level, it's like, oh yeah, money coming in, we're sustainable. It is much more tangible than that. I'm trying to make it tangible with these concepts. All right, so that's what sustainability is. And when you have your mission, which is your focus, and you have your vision, which is your direction, nailed down, and those are guiding you, and you have the ability, the capacity then to implement your programs and initiatives to achieve that vision. Again, that's your capacity. You're able to then explain your organization using stories of the success in a way that creates this credibility and a brand. And that's what attracts consistently your donors and investors. So So that's it right there in a nutshell, the keys to sustainability pillars. All right, so with that quick background, and I'll take a little sip here, and this is, I've been told whenever I hold this up, people, invariably, someone's like, oh, what are you drinking, moonshine? I don't know why this type of glass elicits the moonshine comment, but it's just ice water. Or is it? All right, so no, there's no moonshine stills in Hastings, Nebraska. All right, so securing funding like a pro. We have 3 primary words. The first 2 are pretty self-evident, right? Funding commitment, that's what we mean by secure, different types of funding, but the word pro can mean different things to different people. What it means to me is that someone might have a talent, but talent is not skill until you practice, until you do it over and over and over again. So the things I'm going to share with you today, I've been doing for 25 years. So it's very easy to do it. Some of you might say, oh gosh, this makes sense, but I've never really done that. Well, good. This is exactly what you need to hear, because you can go out and do these things, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. And so that's my biggest encouragement to you, is to try and do these things as often as you can, and it will become very, very familiar. Okay, so what are the steps to securing funding? And this is what a pro does. So number 1, we all know you got to start by identifying some sort of need or opportunity. And then the second step is identifying a potential funding partner, which I'll just kind of refer to as a PFP here and there. You have to make that contact. You have to establish some kind of rapport. You need to understand their proposal process. You know, how is it that that they need to be approached? What do they value? And then you need to craft your proposal. Now, these words can mean different things. When I say craft your proposal, that might include the very first email that you send to someone. It might mean the very first time you sit down face to face with them to talk. And so I know these words can mean really specific things, but think of them as general categories, if you will. It's the need, the who, making contact, and what is it they're looking for, number 4, and then, you know, how do you approach them, number 5. And then the line here is where kind of the 5-step process ends. But then after you receive funding, you've got to do the great implementation. This is the capacity, remember? So if we go back, let's see if I can go back. Yeah. So if we go back, oops, one more, to capacity, this is where you've taken their money, you've received it, and you've done great things with it. And now you're going to get to the stories down in 6 and 7 to basically say, hey, follow up. We did great stuff with your funding. Can you give us more? And we can do more great stuff. So that's what we're trying to impart here. And we're going to take each one of these 5 steps and get into some real detail. And again, after each one, I will ask if you have questions. So as I'm going through the step, if you got a question, go ahead and type it in the chat box to Joe, and then he'll kind of synthesize those. And we may not get to all questions if there's a ton of them. But again, please remember, you're welcome to contact me directly. And at the end of the presentation here, I'll try and get to all the questions that may have been asked. All right, so what do we mean by identifying the need or the opportunity? So on the screen now, you'll see some key questions. Now, I'm sure you're all familiar with needs assessments. Though that's kind of tricky because sometimes you might be asking people what they need and if they don't know what they don't know, if they don't know about their own need, they're not able to articulate it. Sometimes identifying a need is more of an entrepreneurial type of mindset. It's looking around at symptoms. It's saying, you know, what types of problems or challenges am I seeing in the community? Obviously related to my mission. Where is this problem located? And who all is affected by this? How do I know this problem exists? How can I prove it? And can I characterize or quantify it? And if it's not addressed, what are the ramifications going to be? You know, that's just doing some critical thinking. But asking that question is a huge part of identifying this need, because you know we can all walk around and just spout out or spout off need after need after need and say, oh, that's a problem, that's a problem. And until someone takes that first sort of high level statement and drills down and actually, you know, makes it in a way so that other people can understand the need, then nothing can be done. So it's your job to make people understand this need. So number 7, then, how does it pertain to your organization? And is there a match between your organization and this need? And that's a key question. So in this next picture, you'll see that you know, your sweet spot is the overlap between the various needs and challenges and problems that exist in the community, and then what it is that you do. You can't be everything to everyone, right? So you've got to find out where exactly do you fit. And so I want to switch right now over to the tool number 1. Let's see. How do I know? Oh, there we go. All right, tool 1. That's this one here. It says tool 1 right on it. And if you have not had a chance again to look at these handouts that were sent ahead of time, you know, they're there for you. It's a Word document, and you'll see on page 2 of this handout, it's kind of the table with the key questions. But I do want to point out a couple things that sometimes will get in the way of your sales process and even how you're thinking of a need or an opportunity. Your mission is your purpose, your vision is your future if you live up to that purpose, but neither one of those is your program, the one that you're going to actually deliver in response to a need. Okay, so it might sound obvious when you see it in writing like that, but you'd be surprised how often either a board of directors or staff, executive directors will kind of confuse the thing, and suddenly they're talking about how their mission is their program. And that really dilutes the sales process, and it confuses potential investors and donors. So your job is to figure out, again, that intersection. I'm just going to scroll down here to the table. Oops, I'm a little wide. Let me shrink out of that a little bit. Okay, so we have some questions. This is basically the what you would first do with this tool is in the left top box is you would type you know, a list of the programs and services your organization currently offers. So yeah, I know they exist on your website or in a brochure or in some document. The purpose of a tool, though, is to put a lot of pieces in one place and to see how these pieces affect each other. So take the time to type your list right into that box. And then, of course, across from that, over on the right side, you're going to do a little bit of matching. You're going to start the matching process. You're going to type the list of the problems and challenges and needs that you're aware of in your community, that, again, within your organization's intersection, you know, that sweet spot, the things that you're aware of, maybe that other people are talking about, and, you know, take the time to write that list. Maybe it's 2-3 things, maybe it's 20-30 things. I mean, who knows? Then you get down to the next level. So where you're going to add to the list on the left side in the middle there, any programs or services that you plan to do or hope to do someday. And that actually might come from the top right box. So I could put some arrows in here. We go top left. I think you can see my mouse hand moving there. Is that right, Joe? And then so you go to the right. Well, this top right quadrant influences the middle left quadrant in some ways, because you might say, wow, there's a problem out there that just came on the radar, and maybe we need to develop a new program or service that we want to use to address that. So then you start to move over here in the middle right and start to say, well, what are the solutions that could address this? And that might be a one-to-one, you know, or you might just use that one box to focus on one particular solution. You may not have several solutions you type into that one box. You might start to develop some focus. And that's a good thing, because it's by the end of this, you're going to be sort of deciding what is it that we want to focus on. So then you type, bottom left, type any of the new ideas that you may have for programs or services. And again, that's also influenced by the top right quadrant. And then you're finally asking over in the bottom right, is there a match between these possible solutions and what your organization offers? Or are you inventing something totally new? So this is the first pretty simple exercise. And again, I hope it comes across as kind of like this, well, no duh. I mean, when you put it out like this, it makes, you know, it's like nothing's complicated about this. The purpose of a tool, again, is to force you to actually do the work. Remember, we talked about being a pro. It's one thing to talk about stuff and, oh, I could do this, I could do that, and this is the way you do it, but to sit down and do it, that's what makes you the pro. All right, so let's go back to the slideshow. And now the thing about Zoom is you have to wait for the toolbar to disappear before you can get back to your other toolbars. All right, so here's an example. And after this example, I'm going to just ask for questions, if there are any, about this first step. So I'm basically, I'm looking around my community, excuse me, and I'm noticing that there are too many families in the community that are not able to make enough money to rise out of poverty. And that happens to just really intersect with my mission of trying to help families rise out of poverty. And this problem affects families across the entire county in which I live. And that, you know, not only are the families affected, but really the entire community's economy is impacted. I think there's proof of this based on the census and other economic studies. And there's also one fact, and this is the one that kind of turned me on to the topic, is that 78% of our K-12 students in the public schools are on free and reduced lunch, which is a strong indicator that many families are paycheck to paycheck, if not worse off than that. And so we have a lot of families that are, I guess, what I would call working poor, struggling to make it day to day. And that's affecting not only them, their family culture, it's affecting our community as a whole. So this is the need and kind of the related opportunity. I wanted to address this with some programs. I'm not sure which programs yet, but this is what I'm going to focus on. And I'm going to, through our 5 steps, I'm going to build on this example. So after each step, you'll see I come back to this and advance this scenario with you as we work through the steps. Okay, so Joe, any questions at this point that?
Not yet, man. Well, let's keep moving.
All right. So the last few parts of that example, which I forgot there were 6, 7, 8. Sometimes you just get so into your own slides, you go, forget the next one's there. All right, so, because if you go back to the tool, here are your 8 points. And so my example addresses all 8. So let me go, so I just talked through 1 through 5. Number 5 was the 78% free and reduced lunch. Number 6, what if the problem's not addressed? You know, there are going to be ongoing ramifications. If you've got low quality of living, perpetuation of the problem, deterioration of the community over time, that's just part of, I guess, the American way. When a community does not have families moving to it because there are jobs and you don't have people earning a living, that community just deteriorates and eventually just kind of dies. We see that a lot in rural communities across the country as well. So our mission to empower families to rise out of poverty, and our vision is to see those families develop new skills and elevate their income and so forth. And this little phrase here, increase their financial literacy. Because one of the things I noticed in all of my studies is that, you know, when I talk to families who, you know, kind of fit this, this pattern, or they're in this target population, they don't really have a working knowledge sometimes of even what it means to balance a checking account, have a savings account, let alone have a stock portfolio, or putting away for, you know, having goals that you save towards. You know, this idea of financial literacy, it includes, what does it mean to have debt? How much money am I paying in interest on my credit card? And how is that in and of itself? If I keep using my credit card and I don't pay it off each month, it's almost like I'm just paying extra, you know. So it's really an amazing thing when people understand that and say, wow, I can really keep a lot more money in my pocket and change some habits and patterns and kind of redirect my economic energy. So that's a really important thing, part of this formula. You know, will end up kind of being what I focus on in my example. So we plan to engage wage earners in the skill building and offer financial literacy classes. So that's kind of this new sort of program or innovation that I'm thinking would be really helpful. And I think I could sell this idea, is what it comes down to. That's what this presentation is all about. Can I sell this idea such that I can find some funders to give me some funding? Maybe I can then pay some stipends to some planners, financial planners, to do some seminars. Maybe I can hire some staff to, or some contractors to develop some brochures. And, you know, so that's what I'm thinking about, where I can go with this. Okay, so let's move on to number 2, assuming there are still no questions. So number 2 is about, remember that step number 2 is identifying potential funding partners. And this is a process that I think we're all kind of familiar with. We do a Google search. We do, we try and find grants to go after, or foundations that might be lined up with what we're trying to do. It's a lot more complicated than that. Well, no, complicated is the wrong word. The universe of funders is far richer than a simple grant search on Google. And that's the good news, okay? So that's what we're gonna talk about here. So here are some things you can do. And again, you're not starting with that funding partner. You've started with that intersection, okay? So too many organizations right off the bat will they'll just hit the computer and do Google search. And what grants can I go after? And they haven't even really stopped to think about that intersection and what it is they want to focus on. And so if we do that first step, you're now positioned to start asking some better questions. Number 2 here, who is doing, you know, things, initiatives, and providing funding to us in the past that maybe we could go to? Do I have any current funders or past funders? That's the easiest first place to start. So that's the low-hanging fruit, right? And then next question would be, you know, what funding sources certainly could be interested in these needs and the challenges inside, you know, what it is that we do. So, and that's, again, a basic question. A little bit more complicated here. Number 4, who's funded similar services? How would you even find them? So potentially I could go on the internet and I could find, I could just type in financial literacy community services. And I'll go, let's say, find a link. I'll go to a website, and this is maybe a nonprofit that's in some other state or wherever it might be. And I'm going to go and I'm going to look at who their funders are, because they're always listed. And because they have to give them credit, say this program brought to you by a generous grant from such and such foundation, a national foundation of financial literacy. Okay, great. So maybe I could have found them in a general Google search, but now I kind of have a reference. When I reach out to that potential funding source and can say, hey, I saw that you did this great program with XYZ organization over in New Jersey or wherever, and now we've got a very similar need, trying to do something. Would you be interested to partner with us to do some exciting things in my unique community? So that helps you tell your story. So again, similar services now, that's another question, number 4. So it might not be financial literacy, but maybe it's professional skill building. Because when you're helping someone enhance their workforce skills, their ability to do a job, that's really, that's a similar, the whole point is for economic self-sustainability. So you can do well in your job, keep your job, elevate your career. And so if we go to someone who has funded work skill enhancement and that kind of training and say, hey, would you like to also fund this other sort of complementary skill, this financial literacy skill set? Because if you train someone to increase their job skills and they get a raise, what are they going to do with that extra money? If they don't know what to do with the extra money that they're bringing in now, it's all for naught. And so that's what we want to do. It's, oh, wow, that's a really good point. When you kind of put those two together, it's like one kind of step happens after the other. Yeah, let's explore maybe a program, because we can connect your new program with the people who have directly gone through our skill building services. So you can look at it that way. And then lastly here, who's funded initiatives within the community, and just saying, hey, when it comes down to it, if we are not helping our families become economically viable and self-sufficient, then you can do all the wonderful programming and things you want in the community, but it's just not going to help elevate our community. So are you interested to get at this primary challenge and help me help our families become economically sustainable? All right, so let's look at a tool then that kind of captures all of those points. And there are some key questions here. There are 4 of them. So obviously you're looking at your current or past funding partners, who has an interest in this need, the top right, and who has funded something similar, and then whose initiatives are in jeopardy because of this need. And so I'm going to come out of there, and I'm going to go down to my tool number 2. So the first little nugget that I can share just from my experiences over 25 years is just how often I run into people who say, I've got a great idea, and because I've had that great idea, the money will come. And I will also tell you, I am guilty of that exact same thinking. Way back in 1999, I self-published a children's storybook that was basically, it was a tool. It was encouraging parents to kind of read to their children. I thought, oh my gosh, if I build it, they will come. And well, they didn't come. So it's still a great idea, but back in the day, I did not know back then what I know today about how to find investors. And that might be something I go back to someday, who knows, apply my own tools to that situation. But it is the curse of passionate people that we often just get so into our own stuff that we just have this, it might not be conscious, but in our deep subconscious, where it just, oh, it's going to come. It's just going to fall into my lap, and this is going to be great. So what I want to say then is that obviously the sales process is an active, proactive engagement. So first thing you can do, again, we all know about searching for stuff on the internet. If you have not gone out and found maybe 5, 6 different aggregators, I call them, kind of like grantwatch.com. And this presentation is not about that stuff. I mean, that's pretty easy to do. just do a Google search on grant sources, and you'll find these types of aggregators. Pick the ones that kind of maybe match up with your mission and vision. Some of them are gargantuan, and that's great. You just go in, you create a profile. You have to set up searches that deliver daily or weekly emails. I get a weekly email from grantwatch.com that just kind of gives me a heads up to some things that might be of interest to me based on the search criteria that I've set up. You also want to then network with people who can make introductions. So that's an in-person thing. Now this is a challenge for many people, especially in these days right now with COVID-19. But still, networking is very feasible, even if you're doing it from your home or your isolated workplace. Again, due to COVID-19, you're doing it virtually. You can still network. In fact, I might even say that it's quite possible that networking could be easier right now because people are so isolated that they would love to meet new people and make contacts. And so that's something to keep in mind. But networking is actually pretty easy to do. And I'm gonna give you the trick right here and now. This one I don't think I wrote in there anywhere. So the trick is this: everyone loves to talk about themselves, and if you keep that in mind, all you got to do is ask people, "Hey, can you tell me about this or that from your expert opinion?" Oh, sure, I'll give you my expert opinion. And then pretty soon you got a 15-minute appointment, a 30-minute appointment, whatever it is, and you hit it off. You build that. I mean, you basically, in a way, humble yourself, subjugate yourself, let someone be the expert. And the moment they start talking, they automatically have a rapport with you because you are a listener. And so that's the trick. Actually, if you're ever looking for a job, that's the best way to find a job. They're called information interviews. And what you do is just say, hey, Jane Doe, I'm looking for a new position in this field. I'd love to talk with you. I'm not asking you for a job. What I'd like to do is just learn from you. I've done some research, saw that you're pretty successful, and I just wanted to kind of find out, what it takes to be successful in this career field. Would you have 15 or 20 minutes to meet with me? Who's going to turn that down? Nobody, because they love being pumped up as the expert. So what happens in that conversation? You get them talking, and you say some things, and you got some good rapport going. And you slide in there the type of stuff that you're good at, or that you want to do, or that your organization is looking to do. And you ask, hey, do you know anyone else that I could talk to about this? Can you make a referral? And what you're actually doing subconsciously with that person is they're starting to think, could I use this? Is this, and if maybe it might be the right time. Hey, you know what, John? It's interesting that you're talking about that because, and this is after we've built some rapport, we're actually, thinking about a very similar type of initiative or project that might be something we can talk about. Oh, hey, great. Well, who knew, right? So that's the power of networking. And that's how you just got to put yourself out to do it. And if it's not you, you need to find someone who's willing and able to do that. All right, so have your material ready to go, just like cover letters and resumes for a job search. You've got your brochures done. You've got your summaries of your organization. You're ready to go. So let's scroll down to the tool part of this. And this I'm not going to talk through like very in detail because there's, again, a lot of words here. What I'm basically doing is a scan for potential funding partners. I've listed some common ones to the left, and then on the right are just some approaches and strategic considerations. So if you're approaching state agencies, and again, we typically will think of one or two that lines up exactly, but how does the criminal justice system interface with what your mission is, or just economic development in general? What about probation? Obviously human services. What about workforce development? Did you know there are so many grants coming out of workforce development? So if part of what you're doing is helping build skills that can help someone be successful in their job, you might consider contacting a workforce development representative inside the state agency. So a lot of cool ways to approach state agencies. And again, there are your questions on the right to help you sort of shape that approach and that strategic consideration. Let's just do the top one to give you an example. Again, that first bullet point, each entity has a leader who's accountable for achieving certain goals. We have to keep that in mind. So you might say inside the state agency, well, I've got this appointment with so-and-so, but if they're 3-4 rungs down on the ladder of authority, you know that they're not the decision maker, but they can become your champion. But you need to know what that agency's goals are. Do some research, look on their website page inside the state agency or the county agency or the federal agency. I mean, it's all out there. Look at how their mission aligns with these goals. So you can point that out to them and ask, do your programs and services align with their goals? So then you can look to see, are there grant opportunities, service opportunities that are already published? But this second to last bullet here, who are the people with whom you should develop relationships? You know, so where are they physically? What office? What's your path to an introduction? And what will you say? So thinking through, what's my path to an introduction? It's kind of like that, what was that joke? Everyone is what, 7 people removed from Kevin Bacon. Remember that back in the late 90s? I think I was 3 people removed from Kevin Bacon when I did that exercise. Kevin Bacon, who knew?
7 degrees of Kevin
7
Bacon.
degrees of Kevin Bacon, yeah. So I never met Kevin Bacon. I did not pursue that because I was not this huge Kevin Bacon fan. All right, so it's the same question though. I mean, you know someone who knows someone. I mean, if you just start talking about it with people, you'll get to where you need to go, to the person you need to see. So then you need to think about your language. What kind of language does the state agency person prefer versus, let's say, a corporation leader or a philanthropist? You know, am I using words like outcomes and evidence-based and fiduciary responsibility? That's what our state leaders want to hear and see tied to their goals. And then how do I plant my ideas for future program possibilities if there's nothing in the works right now? And that's a really, that's a long-term investment of your time, but that's what relationship does. I can tell you that just last night, I received a call from someone I thought was just a lost cause in terms of business development. So I'm a consultant, so I'm, you know, constantly just out there doing what I'm talking about here. And this relationship has been 11 years old. And he called me last night and said, hey, I've got this thing, you're the guy, and I've got the budget. It's really tiny, but let's just go do this. It's for my church. So anyway, it's just it's amazing what relationships will do, and how if you maintain relationships and plant the seeds of future engagements, and you are that go-to organization because someone has gotten to know you, that's how your gigs come about. Again, that's this part of the sales process. So that's an example of looking through those bullets related to this particular stakeholder on the left. We can come back to it again if we have more time, but we're just in step 2, and it's approaching an hour into this. So we're gonna pick up the pace. So you can just see, you know, more bullets and so forth for each of the primary stakeholder groups, your corporations, your philanthropists, your foundations. So that's that tool. Let's do the quick example. I'm going to come back to the slideshow. And from the beginning, and I'm going to, am I still sharing?
Yes.
Huh, cool, that worked pretty, oh no, I did the wrong one. Not from the beginning. Hang on, sorry about that.
Yeah, it'll go back on you sometimes.
Here we go. Slideshow from current slide, that's what I meant to do. All right, so let's pick up our example. remember the example is the financial literacy and just poverty in the community. So I have learned that none of our funding partners, our current funding partners, are interested in addressing this particular need in my financial literacy project. So I have to move on. Remember, that's the first thing you want to do. Who knows me? Who thinks I'm credible? And now I can ask them. Remember, part of the networking. Well, you guys aren't interested, but do you know anyone who might be interested? Don't forget to ask that question. Do you know anyone else could you provide a referral? And by the way, if someone gives you a referral, what's the first thing you do when you get into that meeting? You have to heap tons of praise on that referring partner or entity, because that's going to get back to them. When you get done with the conversation and John Doe calls Jane Doe, and they're not related, they're just both Does. And Jane's the one who referred you, and John's to Jane, hey, yeah, just talked to that John Ferrone guy, and man, he really is impressed with you or whoever you are, and said some great things. That all gets back. People share that stuff. That's how the professional networking realm works. And actually, if you want to know someone who is an absolute genius at this stuff, he's actually behind the scenes right now. It's Joe McCann. This is a skill. Joe, you're probably thinking there's probably 1,000 things you could add to these slides about networking and everything. So that might be something that you could do someday as a short presentation on some of your networking strategies. Anyway, so that was a dead end, the current funders. So we'll go to number 2. I'm going to search the grant funding and then in financial literacy, and I find there are many entities that deliver services and funding on this topic. Okay, so I'm going to explore each one of those, see if there's anything available, any quick hits, anyone I want to make contact with. But I also learned, just in kind of looking around in our local resources, our Chamber of Commerce would like to see, I saw this article in a newspaper, Chamber of Commerce, they want to see our retail consumers become more prudent with their spending habits. And that might have to do with the fact that maybe too many people are online and there's too much money leaving the community because it's going to maybe national retailers and so forth. So that hurts our community tax base. And well, you can't just come out and say, hey, buy local. I mean, you could, but that message bounces off people. But if you couch it in the realm of saying, there's reasons, there's prudence to spending locally and developing habits. Well, and that just kind of caught my eye, and I thought, well, maybe the Chamber of Commerce would like to sponsor this program. And then also the local community foundation. I looked to them. They provide funds for the food bank. And I'm thinking, well, if too many people are without the means to buy their own food, then that food bank can easily be overwhelmed. And what the community foundation is really doing is throwing money downstream to the people after they already need to go to the food bank. We can't stop that, but maybe they have got an interest in trying to do something upstream to help people before they ever need food from the food bank. And so that might be an interesting angle. In fact, I think that's the one I'm probably going to go with out of the different possibilities that I scared up in my research efforts. All right, so before we get to number 3, are there any questions, Joe, that I need to address?
Yeah, we've had a few. Let me just 2 really. And you've sort of addressed this, John, but I had a couple of comments about how do you find a funder whose priorities match your mission? You've sort of addressed that already. Is there anything else? Just know that's on everybody's frontal lobe. Is there anything you want to add to that? And then I'll go to the other questions.
Well, one easy thing you could do is type the key words of your mission in quotes, and maybe there are different words, each in quotes, into a Google search. And then also put funding or funding source into that same search, and it might bring up obviously foundations or that have those keywords within their meta tags. So that's a really easy, simple trick to do in terms of an internet search. Just take your own words and combine them with funding in your search. locally, or at least maybe within your own state or region, you can probably kind of, I guess there's going to be some people who might know those types of answers. I would say banking professionals and accountants and attorneys. And so if you make an appointment, let's say with someone who does estate planning, and just say, hey, thanks for making some time. My question is this. Here's what our mission is. I'm not asking for you to disclose any one person's name as a potential donor or philanthropist, because that's, you know, private information. However, can you direct me to maybe any foundations, whether they're private or family or corporate, or anything where, you know, some of your clients have decided to make some donations related to this kind of mission statement? You know, you might ask a half a dozen or a dozen attorneys that exact question, and maybe one, maybe 10 will give you some insights. But that's, I mean, it comes down to thinking about who would know what it is you're searching for. Because you obviously, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, but you can think about who would know. And so that would be the other piece of advice.
Well, and that's a good segue into the next question, because we basically had two people ask this a very similar question. How do you get to the right person to have the conversation about intersecting priorities? It seems like many funders funnel applicants to online applications. That's the first one. And then the other one was similar, is a challenge is to access the person who is the expert. Any additional tips you can share? So both about how do you get to the right person?
Okay, I'm going to come off and just talk a little bit. The first question really sounded like the internet is a barrier. It's the funnel. It's the waiting room. It's the place where you get sent to, and that's where they screen you. They weed you out, and you know, that's frustrating. And so what I heard really, that first question is, how do I get past that? How do I talk?
How do you get around it? How do you get around it?
How do I talk to a human being?
Yeah.
And it's, again, through that networking. So let's say I'm trying to, actually you'll see this in my example, and so I'll be brief here, and then we'll touch on it a little bit later. But in my example, I'm going to go to the community foundation, and it just happens that happen to know, or someone knows, one of the board members on that community foundation. So I get an appointment with that board member. And so they're not that, I'm not going to ask that board member to give me money on the side or fast track me, but I'm going to ask that board member to, on the inside, alert the executive director, whoever it is, to be on the lookout for my proposal that's going to be coming through. So that's really what you're doing, is networking through people that way. So you just kind of find someone who knows someone. Just remember Kevin Bacon. Wouldn't that be funny? A total tangent. If all of us on the call right now, we should do like the first person to get to Kevin Bacon wins $1,000 for their organization. Just kidding. But that would be kind of fun. So
how about Bill Gates? Let's make that Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. So, but that is the exact point. I mean, someone you know knows someone directly, or the next person who's going to connect you and give you that inside opportunity just to get on the radar. So anyway, that's how I'd answer it. Now, the second question, again, refresh my mind, was similar, but
yeah. A challenge is to access the person who is the expert.
Well, let me continue with this, because the example will eventually get to that when I make contact right here. So number 3, this is the third step: making contact, establishing rapport. Do you know anyone? So again, what we just talked about. Do you have a relationship, or do you need an introduction? When I say "you" in quotes, I put it there because it might be you, the person right now on this webinar, but it also might be a you inside your organization, one of your board members, one of your staff members, one of your current clients that you work with or families that you serve might know someone. So you is a broad term. Is this person a decision maker or an influencer? Very often it's going to be an influencer. I mean, there's only one true decision maker typically inside each organization. Now they might have a committee deciding on, which grants to fund and things like that, but there typically is one primary decision maker. So that means most of the other people who it's a matter of odds. Are you going to meet that one person, or are you going to meet someone else who could be an influencer of that decision maker? So keep that in mind. Direct contact info, can you find that? I have gotten really, really good at, just starting with some basic searches on the internet, and pretty soon, whether it's a LinkedIn profile or something on Facebook, not so much Facebook because there's usually the personal information is not there, but someone writes an article that gets published, and this was 3 years ago, and for further information, contact so-and-so at, and there's their email. Well, wow, there's their email just hidden in this article. And so you got to take the time to find that stuff. What do you know about the person? This is where Facebook comes in. Very often people's Facebooks are going to be, either locked, you got to be a friend to see stuff, but you'd be surprised how many people just have stuff out there, and wow, this person has 2 Labradors. I've got a Labrador. We could be friends. I mean, that's, that type of connection, just remembering those little details. That's a personal thing, but what about professionally? Have they published stuff? Have they taken on community roles? And then you can start to learn maybe what would they value about you and your organization, because there's a connection there. So you got to do that kind of research. Again, this is what it means to be a pro. You're going to do these. This is like the shortstop for the Cubs, who's, every day he is going to do 500, handball drills where he's running back and forth and bending down and flipping the ball back to the guy who's tossing it to him every single day. Hand-eye coordination. It's the tiny things that make him successful as a shortstop. And these are the tiny things that make your networking and your first impression successful. So you've got to do your research, dig in, find out about people, make a connection. Do you have any shared experiences? Gosh, we both went hiking in the Alps, or we both shop at this grocery store, or we both like cheesecake. I mean, it could be anything. People like to connect. People like to have something in common. So if you remember that, it has to be a lot better than, hey, I like your tie. That's the old sales training from the 1960s. Hey, nice tie. Let's do business.
Hey, John, can I throw one thing in?
Yeah.
I just want to support that because, I used to tell friends in terms of on the legislative side, read their bios. You're exactly right. I mean, from a public bio standpoint, it's about impossible to not find something on somebody's like, they went to Georgetown. Oh, my cousin Jimmy went to Georgetown. Exactly what you're saying. To put the work in, it never fails. And it's just like a shoe leather thing. A lot of times in these things, you never know what the one thing was that made the difference, and you never will know it. But if you didn't do it, you wouldn't have the outcome you wanted. So you just got to get out there and hustle. Yeah. And along the way, inevitably, one of the little dumb things, like you hung around for an extra 10 minutes in the Capitol one day, or, that's just, my reality of it. But, something that you just don't know what it was, and it pays dividends down the road. But putting the effort and work into it, to getting to know your audience, is hugely important in my experience.
Right. By the way, love that tie.
Thank you.
Joe never wears a tie, so actually it looks good on you, Joe.
I was going to wear the bow tie, but I decided not to.
All right, so the last point there, number 8, is also really, really critical. Is how are you going to make this person look good for suggesting what it is you're asking them to suggest? So, if you're just asking someone to just do a favor, and it's just all about you, well, and sometimes really that is all you can do. But hopefully you're able to ask them in a conversation. So, what is it that you need? What will be helpful to you? And then, be able to use that information to, make them look good. All right, so this little image says it all. Money flows through rapport, and that's the basic point I want to make there. To sum up step 3, and so I'm going to go to that tool. Come on, why is it? Oh, there we go. Tool 3. All right, so this is one. You'll see most money flows via relationships. So I've got these variables below and kind of a short description of each variable. And I'm in this tool, you need to just type your response into your response to these questions. So let's just look at the first one: who's involved? Who's on their board of directors of this foundation or funding source, or maybe the city council? I mean, who are the people? Who are their staff members? What do you know about them? Like Joe said, reading bios, newspaper articles, things that they've published, where they've been interviewed. Who are their key sponsors? So what's important to them? If you've got a foundation that's got a relationship, let's say, with a corporate entity, let's say they've got an ongoing grant relationship from a Fortune 1000 company. Well, why? Oh gosh, if you look, you'll notice that if you go to that corporate entity and just scroll through maybe their board of directors, you'll see that there's a man on that board and a woman on this foundation's board with the same last name. I wonder if they're married. There's a connection. So now, how does that help you? Well, it's part of the dynamic. It's part of navigating and putting together kind of the relationship, understanding the relationships that are flowing inside the organization, so that you can jump into that flow somehow. Who's received the grants? You can look at where they've made grants to, and understand, commonalities among those organizations. And when I look at every person somehow connected to this potential funding partner, is there anyone I know or know someone who knows someone? That's always one of the key questions. And so I'm going to use this tool now. I'll put my cursor over on the right, and I've got the current opportunity. I've typed that up here. Let's say it's going to be my local community foundation. And so now everything I can learn, I'm just going to document over in this right table. And the cell's going to expand in your Word document, just like a Word table does. So you're not going to run out of space. And then the same thing over here, commonalities and contact approach and the meeting. So again, I can come back to these later, but you can see them and read them right there. These are the key questions that I ask when I'm doing this. And I can tell you that, again, after about 25 years of doing this, I don't want to discourage you, or I don't use these tools. I do this stuff so fast and by habit now, and so does Joe, and you will too. So that's my, when I say I didn't want to discourage you, I don't want to say, well, gosh, if he doesn't use these tools, why should I use? This is for the person who really wants to get good at doing this kind of stuff. I think like this naturally now. It's just my pattern. So, and once you start using these tools, it'll come naturally to you as well. So this is how to kind of get started and learn some of these key things and put them into practice. So
hey, John, can I ask you a question as we go here?
Yeah.
Just a real quick couple of them. Rachel had a good one. When it comes to approaching donors and the quote unquote, the right person, is there any usefulness to understanding and discussing potential financial benefits, including tax impacts to the individual or organization providing the funding?
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's say you're talking to a philanthropist, any time that you can explain how you're a 501c3, or if you're not that, you've got a partner with you've got a foundation that they could give the money to as a donation that will flow through to you, and they get the tax write-off. I typically don't lead with that because to me that kind of takes the spotlight off the real purpose. It kind of in a way sends a message that let's say it's you, Joe. Hey, Joe, if you make this donation, you get a tax write-off. It doesn't sound, there's no feeling to it. There's nothing, it just sounds like a commodity, right. And I'm treating Joe as if he's just trying to do a tax write-off. So I would kind of save that for later. And I might even couch it to say, and by the way, in case you are curious,
it's a value added. It's a value added in the end.
Yeah. In case you're curious, we are a 501c3, or we do have a 501c3 partner. So this would be something that could be a tax deduction if that's of importance to you. So I just kind of downplay it that way. Other question you said?
It was, how do you know when it's the right time to make your ask?
Wow, that's a good question. That's a whole nother seminar, the right time. It kind of comes, this is where you're going to, I'll tell you how I know, because I think it's just different for every person. This really is a personality thing. I know it's the right time to make an ask when I've seen nonverbals. Those are important to me. When someone is nodding, and then when the second signal to me is I say something, then they add to it. It's not that their response is not a okay. It's a yeah, and you could do this. Yeah, and we could do this, and then and you're building something together. That's a good indication. And I think really the question is probably the second part of that question, maybe that was asked or not, but is how do you ask? So are you in? I mean, what is it that, how do you
when should I expect the check?
Yeah. So, here, can you whip out your checkbook now? So how do I ask? My style is to always come back to what's important to them. To say, I've loved our conversation. I think this could be a really exciting program to do together. I know you guys have a lot of other priorities. Is there something else that I could give to you or provide that might help you consider, making this program an investment that you'd like to make, or a program you'd like to invest in? As you can, it's very soft. I'm a soft. I mean, you get hard sellers. I do not think philanthropy is the we got red, we got blue, we got white, we got green. Which one do you want? You're not forcing it at them. You're inviting them. That's my style. And so each person figures out their style, and you'll know when to make the exact.
And how it will make an impact. And this is how this will make a huge impact on what we do. I think people like to feel like they're, even the larger funders that, they're not just one of many, and this is going to make a big impact. And here specifically how.
Yes, exactly. Well, let's take that to the example then for number 3. So we're going to pick up with the financial literacy program. I did choose the Community Foundation. I'm hoping that they invest in this financial literacy program for our target population. I have met 2 board members in the past years at other events. I'm not sure if they're going to remember me, but I did have an elevator pitch ready at that time when I met them. And I do remember that they liked the mission. They said that in so many words in their own way. That was maybe a few years ago. Will they remember me? I think they will. And if not, I can remind them in a quick email. Hey, remember a few years ago we met at such and such event. I liked your tie. Da da da. Just kidding. We both know Kevin Bacon. And do you have a few minutes? I'd love to get together with you and just tell you about something exciting, and I'd like your opinion about it. I hope you've heard in what I just said there, all of the little pieces coming together. I ended on, I'd like your opinion about it. I'm not selling something. I'm asking for your expertise. You want my opinion? Oh, of course, I got opinions. So I do my research about these people. I find, you know, I go and try to do, learn everything I can. Where do we have shared interests? I make the contacts, set up the appointment, establish the commonalities. So I'm in the appointment now. We've established the commonalities. I'm going to get to a point where I invite them to, this is the ask. So after we've I've shared, I've got the idea, I've got their opinions, and now, yeah, I invite them to consider an extension of their food bank program. So I explain that concept then in more detail. This is what that could look like. And here's where I use the upstream and downstream metaphor, which, by the way, I'm a huge believer in metaphors. I think, you know, we see them far more often today than we did even just 5-6 years ago with the invention of memes. Well, memes are metaphors quite often. And so it really is a powerful tool. And I'm kind of glad for memes because it's made metaphors even that much more powerful. So when you can help people understand things by using images, that is a powerful thing, and it gives them something to latch onto. And then eventually I'm going to ask, and it might not be these exact words, are you interested in receiving a proposal? I mean, maybe you say that like that, but you get to it. That's the point here in the slide number 5 is that, you know, you eventually are trying to find out if they'd like to receive a proposal about the concept. And you might hear some clues because that's dangerous. Number 5 could be dangerous because if they say no, well, then it's done. So this goes back to the person's question about the timing. When do you ask? And maybe that's a little bit about what, I can't remember if it was a she who asked the question. Was it Rachel, you said? But that question, part of it is, gosh, there's a risk, you know, the moment you ask the question, fork in the road. Yes, no. If it's a no, boom, you're done. It's over. And so if you blow it too early and get the no too early, you didn't have the opportunity then that maybe you could have if you had spent more time just building rapport. So maybe you just say, gosh, I'm not even going to ask. I'm just going to explain this, get their idea, and just say, maybe I end with, well, I appreciate your time today. I really love your insights. You're helping me kind of shape this up. I think I've got quite a few more people I want to talk to about this idea, just to kind of explore whether or not it's got any legs and if it's going to run and be successful. You know, I'd love to keep you in the loop. But other than that, thanks for your time today. Oh yeah, John, thanks. Yeah, give me a shout anytime, da da da. And you can see right there, I left the door open so that someday I can go back again and say, hey, I got an update. And, you know, such and such expressed an interest. And it kind of makes me wonder, you know, what's the chance you guys might like to partner on this? So there's a lot of different ways that you can get to the ask, but figuring out that timing, that is just one of those instinctual types of things, and you look for cues and just, I guess, make your best guess that way. I think, again, I'm a softer sell, and so that's always been my style. All right, let's go to number 4, step 4. So understanding their process. This one's a little more straightforward, and so I'm going to probably move through this quickly so we can have more time to talk. We're all familiar with writing grants and looking at the grant process, and do they want 1-inch margins and 12-point font, and it's got to be Times New Roman or whatever, and yada yada, you know, all that stuff. So what is that process? What are the variables? Some of the key things here, before we waste their time, we need to know internally, is this realistic? Because if it's not, we can always just send a letter. Hey, we hope to be in a position in the future grant cycles and so forth. Want to get on your radar. Love what you're doing. Thanks for doing that. And that's simple to do. But I'll tell you what, you send something in prematurely and you don't have the capacity, and your proposal does not have the depth, and especially compared to other grant submissions, they're going to remember. Next time you send something in, oh, here's that organization again. And that first impression will stick. So I know that you probably hear from other grant writing professionals, oh, send out as many as you can because you never know what's going to stick. I'm not a shotgun person. I'm a rifle person with a big scope. So I go after something that's a great fit. And it takes a lot more effort. And it is true, you're kind of, in a way, not putting all of your eggs in one basket because you're going to keep taking shots over time. But it is different than sitting back and saying, oh man, I sent out 10 grant applications this month. Let's hope one comes through. And I'm not knocking that. If that's your preference, that's fine. I'm just pointing out there is a risk that if you don't have a great fit, because put yourself in the shoes of these funding sources. They see so many grant submissions, and they're trying to weed out who you are or the ones that don't fit. It's a screening process, and so your job, even though you're trying to get money, but your number one goal is actually not to win the grant. Your number one goal is to become known and to be looked for in whatever it is they do in the future. Wow, that was a really great grant application. It's not a perfect fit for us right now, but it was so close, and we're so impressed that we're actually going to reach out to this executive director and say, hey, if you have other things that maybe are a better fit, or you want to talk about some things, let us know. I've seen that happen many, many times. And that's how you develop a brand for being a credible investment. And I know everybody's scrambling for as much money as they can find, so they're all going after sources. And again, I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying that my style is to use the rifle approach. Let's go ahead and look at the tool. Again, key questions, good fit. What are the procedures? Your story. We talked about what your story is in a previous training, storyboarding, and how to come up with that storyboard for your pitch and so forth based on your strengths and so forth. So that's key to approaching them. And then, of course, attention to detail. Let's take a quick look at number 4 here.
Hey, John, can I ask you a couple questions while you're
Yep.
a little bit about the subject matter before this, so we don't get too far ahead. And just FYI for you, we're sitting on about 25 minutes here.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we're in good shape.
How long on average does a 501c3 that has never received a grant need to lay the groundwork to be able to start asking? And then from there, how long to actually get the first yes?
It depends. I mean, that's the easy answer. I have seen organizations do the 501c3 easy process and receive their status within 45 days of submitting that application to the IRS, and then turn around and receive their first contract for services 2 weeks later. And that was because the relationship had been building over the prior 10 months. And so I would say ballpark, a relationship that's going to lead to that yes is anywhere from a 6 to 12 month relationship building process. Of course, that could be a lot faster if you have what they need or they're excited about what you're doing. It could be longer if let's say the state agency you're trying to work with is closed and they've got the answer and they really don't want to work with anyone else. It just comes down to dynamics. So it's a tough question to answer. I guess maybe what I'm hearing or trying to get at is what's the question beneath the question? And that is, how long do I have to be running back and forth with the baseballs and flipping them back to the person who's rolling them to me before I'm ready to be shortstop and get that first grounder hit to me and I successfully throw them out at first base. There's no easy answer. But in my experience, when you take the rifle approach, that very focused, targeted approach, you have a much faster path to success. And by the way, it's hunting season out in Nebraska. That's where all of the shooting metaphors are coming from. So, but I guess hopefully, I think there'll be a little bit more that answers that question as we go forward. Is there another question?
Yeah, one more real quick, and then we can move on. Can you offer any insight as to how this practice is effective in a small community, as in a county of 160,000 residents, versus a large county of 1.5 million residents? This is the actual example of counties adjacent to each other as we choose where our project will move forward.
Mm-hmm. Good question.
Yeah.
My first thought is right away, the smaller, not necessarily the better in terms of outcome you get money, but the smaller, the easier it is to make inroads, because kind of everybody knows everybody. But that's also a con. It's like, well, so if you make one wrong step, that gets around quickly. So when you're a much larger community, there's more to entities to approach. There's less risk of being sort of branded and maybe set off to the side in a negative way if there's something that went wrong inside your organization. So I would say that in that particular situation, and this is totally off the cuff, I'd be happy to talk to that person, one-on-one to learn the details. But I would say I would probably start small and within my local, because what I might try to invite them to do is maybe the storyboard. The storyline is, hey, we have this need. So do all of the neighboring counties. I think we locally could do a great job and show everybody else how this is done. So let's do a little pilot here. Let's be successful. Let's get some attention. Let's put a feather in our cap, the local little guy or smaller community or area, county. And then strategically on the inside, what's in it for you? Well, obviously the pilot, you might not be making a whole lot of money beyond the cost of the pilot itself, money that you'd put into other programs, but at least you can break even. But what you get is a credential. And now you can go to those larger communities and you can leverage that pilot and say, hey, we did this. We'd like to come here and do it with you on a bigger scale. So that's how I'd probably approach that, again, without knowing any of the details. All right, so tool number 4. And again, this is that process. Just remember, every process is designed to weed out as many applicants as possible. Because, the internet has just made everybody accessible by everybody. And so the number of proposals they get and applications is just astronomical. So common variables that I have seen, due date, what's the focus and topic, your eligibility, or is there a letter of inquiry or intent necessary, or what's the content requested items? Is there a prescripted narrative they're asking you to follow? You might even have to enter stuff online inside the little boxes with character limits of 5,000 characters. I mean, it just, everyone is different. And in many ways, again, it's not human, but that's your job, is to prepare the human side to receive what you're going to be sending through their process. And then your basic process and delivery of the proposal. So I think this is pretty straightforward. And again, it's a Word document, so that hopefully if you identify the opportunity, there's a grant you're going to go after, this community foundation. Let me pull that up next to my little tool here, and I'm going to dig through their stuff, and I'm going to put it over here in my tool and type it all out so that I don't lose track of it. The other thing that this type of tool does is it helps you talk with your board of directors about what it is you're trying to do. It helps you talk with your staff. It helps you identify tasks and maybe, hey, Joe, can you go do this? Lori, can you go do that? Sarah, can you go do that? And as a team, we kind of fill in some things and bring our work product, to this particular opportunity and put together a great grant application or a concept paper. In my case, what I'm thinking of, by the way, the phrase concept paper is a very soft sort of sell. So you're not saying I'm requesting money. What you're saying is I'm asking you to look at and consider this concept and hopefully contribute to the concept. And by doing so, you're kind of weaving in the audience into the kind of the building what that is, and hopefully that will result someday in the funding that you're looking for. All right, so in my example, I decided to pursue that community foundation, that upstream investment. We have, I'm leading with number one, this idea that, gosh, we're seeing an uptick in the number of people needing the food bank, and that trend is just getting bigger and bigger. We really think that if we do some financial literacy and money management skills, maybe just pointing out to people that, I know you love your cell phone, but you don't need the $2,000 upgrade or $500 upgrade. The cell phone you have works for now. Keep it, use it. You don't need satellite TV. Get out of the TV, stop watching it, and go out and network with people instead. Find a good job, find a better job, find other resources that can help you be good at your job. And so save the cost of your monthly satellite TV. I don't mean to be flippant with any of that stuff, and please don't hear any judgment. What I'm saying is that people make decisions without understanding truly the long-term economic impact of those decisions. And that's just a product of what I think is our entertainment culture, and people quickly lose track of just how important it is to understand their own household financial management. Okay, so I learned that I need to be a 501c3 located in the same town inside this community. I've understood their grant proposal schedules. No grants exceed 10,000, so I'm not going to go in with 11,000 requests. There's a list of criteria. There's 5 values and benefits that they're looking for. I've learned that. I've got that. I've matched myself up with that. I have to have sustainability. I can't just go in and say, hey, give us money. I have to say, if you give us money and we do this training, here's where we will find the next money to do more training. Because obviously they don't want to just throw money into a dead end. There are some restrictions. So I've learned all about their process. And so I'm ready to go. I've got the details, and it's a great fit. So I'm ready to go. So then we get into the final step. And again, it may not be a written proposal. It could be a grant that you're writing. It could be a conversation. It could be a concept paper. Again, please use the word proposal loosely. But basically, now I'm going to go through these key steps. I've got to follow the template. I have to ask, how am I going to set myself apart? What is that winning storyboard? Do I have credible examples? Even if I have not been in existence yet, what I can say is that my board of directors, they are people with experiences. So maybe they're able to share an example that demonstrates our capacity to do things. Real quick story, I learned that lesson way back early in my consulting career. I was actually a staff person inside this new company, and we were in front of this company, this board of directors that basically said, okay, hang on a second, what's the biggest contract you guys have ever worked on? And the CEO said, well, a couple $100,000. And the guy who asked the question went like this, I kid you not, he went, he kind of looked away, crossed his arms, he was done. And that was the nonverbal I saw. Well, it just so happened that I had come from a larger consulting firm into this little boutique firm, and I just piped up and I said, one of the reasons that I was brought in was to kind of help bring my expertise in managing larger projects to this scope. Such and such contract that I was just on, it's a $17 million a year budget and yada, yada, share the details. This guy literally uncrossed his arms and started talking to me. And I didn't do that to showboat. I did that so my little company could help win. But what I recognized was, wow, everybody can contribute to the solution. So even though you don't have a program in place, you can't, that you can point to, oh, we've done this, we've done that. You can say our people have done these things or similar things, and we're going to bring our unique individual expertise and shape this program, and it will be successful because we've all done it individually. And now we're trying to institutionalize this program inside of our organization. We're trying to build infrastructure around our expertise and deliver it as a program. It's like, wow, that makes a lot of sense now. I get it. Okay, let's keep talking about it. So that's the credibility. And then speaking to your strengths. And then the last tool, and again, 2 big points here: rapport and relationship. Needs that audience wanting to hear and read your stories. We talked about the human side, people being ready to see it. So you built that rapport. And the power of your story is one thing, and how it is told is another. And I want to focus on that as I talk through this tool number 5, because in tool 5, really when we talk about how you tell your story, it's really what sets your strengths apart from the strengths of your competitors. So here's a very simple example. Right in front of you on your screen is me. I'm telling you my story, how I do this. If you go watch a different salesperson, they're going to tell their story a little differently. They're not going to have moonshine, but they're going to have their own story. They're going to be doing it differently. And maybe that'll speak to you, maybe it won't. But the point is, I know what I'm good at. I'm going to be the way I am. I'm not going to try to be someone different. And I've tried to match up with the audience that I kind of know what they need, and I'm trying to give them all that I can. And so it's the same thing here. You are going to tell your story in a way that helps them connect with you. So I've got the storyboard tool here. You've got your, this is a template that I use, and you can play around with the parts. You'll see the little caveats up here, these 3 points. This is where you can say, gosh, maybe we mix and match these pieces, but the powerful storyboard has these elements: an introduction, and there's your summary of your introduction, your overview and understanding of the situation. So you're basically letting them know that you know what it's all about. What was that guy from the Honeymooners? Ralph. I know that you know that I know that you know. So in a way, you're just kind of establishing that, and that's important, that they know that you are aware, that you're not just coming in blind. You're going to talk about the impact of that challenge, and you're going to talk about the ramifications of not addressing the challenge, the solution to consider, and your organization, why you're the one that can implement the solution. You'll see down on here, there's no need to mention money yet. And then your conclusion and invitation. And what is your invitation? Is it an invitation to maybe come together with other community partners because you're going to host just a community discussion about this topic, and you want people to weigh in and understand it, and maybe something will come out of that? Is it an invitation to, are you going to ask them if they'd like to see a proposal, or something in between? And so each of these, again, summarize there. I don't want to, spend time going through those details because you've got it now. But again, like a pro, you need to use this tool and really just sit down and write your answers. And you might not get it at first in terms of, wow, this is, I went through this tool and I read my answers and they just don't sound that great. That's okay. It takes practice. Keep trying and rewriting and different opportunities as they come across your desk. And you'll get very good at figuring out what your storyboard is. And the storyboard that you write for one opportunity, 85% of it is going to get copied and pasted into the next storyboard and mixed around and use different ways. And you'll have some customization based on, it's just like doing a job search and a resume. Your cover letter and your resume, 85% the same, no matter who you're sending it to, and then you customize it. Same thing here. We're just breaking it down into small steps. So let's go back to the example of step 5. So I did my intro. We are XYZ organization. We have this interest, like you, in assisting the community. Our understanding of the situation. Again, financial literacy is missing in our community. It's affecting all of us in subtle yet impactful ways. We've got impact. We've got working poor. We got 78% free and reduced lunch. Decreasing educational attainment. I might even do a little bit of research and find out, that we have more and more kids dropping out of high school. Well, why is that? Well, it's because they have to go to a job or something, because their parents are making them, because maybe they're broke or something. Food banks are overrun. So we have all of this impact. And what are the ramifications? There's impact and ramifications really are two different things. Ramifications is more of a future concept in a bigger picture, okay? Whereas impact are the immediate, right now, here's the proof. Ramifications, if we don't address this, not only will we have the symptoms of the impact that we're seeing now, but this is really going to hurt us. Overall decline in the economy, taxable revenue is going to go down, community services are going to suffer because there's no taxable revenue to support them, financial failure of families, and all that implies. This is a trajectory that is not good for our community. So I'm making the case that we need to do the solutions, outreach to teach financial literacy and supports and so forth, and the principles of everyday living in terms of financial success. We can implement it. We've got this ability. We've got a track record of identifying and addressing needs with programs we can design and implement. My closure, we hope you'll be interested to brainstorm with us about how to bring a solution to our community. Notice I did not say we hope you'll give us $10,000 or whatever the number is. Again, inviting them to engage us in this discussion. And so that's where I would trust that if they say, yes, let's talk more about it, I'm giving them a chance to become comfortable in what it is I'm asking them to understand. Okay, so that was the quick example 5. Let me just finish up these last slides and we'll come back to questions, okay? Because step 6 and 7, it's not the focus of the presentation, but we just, want to emphasize that implementing, measuring, telling your story again. This is the coming full circle of the sales process. Every project that you receive funding for becomes, the moment you receive funding for it, it is now a reference point for future funding sources. What did you do with previous money that was given to you? And if you can't tell me you hit a home run, I'm going to look for someone else who can hit a home run. So you got to be able to prove it, and you got to be able to then tell your story about doing well with that money. Strengthening that rapport, again, that's the exact point here. What did you do with your funding? So, Joe, you're on that board. We had that initial conversation. I've kept you in the loop. I'm so grateful that you were willing to have that conversation with me from the very get-go and kind of get us on the radar. I'm really happy to tell you just some exciting things we've done with the investment that the foundation made in us. And it started with you. Do you have time for coffee? I think you'll be really excited to hear about this stuff. Oh yeah, great. Let's get together, connect, and then I brag and I make this person look good. And it's genuine. None of this stuff is, if you can't do any of this stuff genuinely, then get out of the business. Nobody likes fake people. Nobody wants to be sold to and connived. Everything you've heard me said, from the very beginning, I said, I put on your team's colors. If if I'm selling to a foundation, a project, I want that foundation to be as successful as we are when we receive their grant. We're all on the same team now. So if I've approached someone, it's because I know it's a good fit and it's very genuine. So I just want to make that point. It has to be sincere, it has to be genuine. We want them to look forward to investing in us again. So what I would leave you all with in terms of Quest is, how do you act like a pro? It's doing these little things, going through the exercises, and using the tools, making that effort. Take some time to think about a specific need that is in your capacity to address. Really, the smaller the better right now. You're not going to be able to, well, I guess it depends. I don't know who all is on the call. Maybe you can go after something big. That's great. If you're a startup, you're on that left side of that one PDF on the creation and startup, and you're looking to kind of do a pilot. Smaller the better. Prove yourselves, prove that you have capacity, prove that you're a go-to person or organization that can get it done. Use these principles and tools to shape kind of how you're pitching the story and engaging people. And just remember, it takes one successful iteration of this model for you to taste the possibilities. And this is for the salespeople out there. If you know you're a salesperson, you know what I mean already. But if you've never really gotten into, and this is sales, and some people don't like that word. And because you're a nonprofit, you don't think that you're selling. You're selling. You're not selling to make a profit. You're selling to make an impact. And so, and the people who you're approaching, they know that and they expect it, and they want you to be professional and thorough and just bring your A game. So, on your quest to identify and approach, that's what you need to do. Once you taste that possibility, you'll be like Don Quixote, and you will go after every windmill you can find, because you're going to see how rewarding this process is when you apply yourself, do the little things, and that one success, you're going to say, wow, this worked and I can do this. And if really, for real, if you're not comfortable, there is someone in your organization who can either do it with you or on their own. But this is that process that you need to pursue. So obviously, good luck. There's my contact information. And again, you're welcome to get in touch. And I guess at this point, what I'll do is stop sharing. And Joe, if you want to do that spotlight thing,
sure,
so they can all see this,
well,
think how shaven I am.
yeah. Thank you, John. Thank you very much. And there's a couple of quick things I want to mention. Just before everybody starts hanging up to anybody to leave early, I just want to say, please follow up. And everybody, I think, has my email that's on this call. If you got the link, you do have my email. Please let us know how we did. And even more importantly than that, let us know what you want to hear from us about in the future. We really want to be relevant and helpful, and this is our charge, to be able to help family-run organizations be successful. And we can't do that unless we hear from you guys in terms of the things that you want to hear more about. And so please take the time to do that. John, thank you. And Rachel gets the gold star for not only her questions, but actually connecting you with Kevin Bacon. And I'm going to read this. She says, John Ferrone spoke at the Family Cafe. In 2020, Zach Gottskian spoke at the Family Cafe. Zach starred in Peanut Butter Falcon with Bruce Dern, who starred in The Great Gatsby with Robert Redford, who starred in The Natural with John Finnegan, who was in JFK with Kevin Bacon. Oh my God, Rachel. Thank you.
Love it.
I will say, John, I don't want to brag on anything, but I actually spoke to Zach. I'm a little ahead of you.
You are.
Yeah. But we're close.
Well,
we're just going to call it a draw.
Before you hang up, and I know this is 2 hours, and gosh, this flew by, and I know it was a fire hose. Again, please get in touch. I've got time, Joe. I don't know about you, but I'm a host, so I can keep the call going. If there's anyone who wants to stay on and continue to ask questions, I'm happy to do that right now if you're kind of in the mood.
Yeah, we could stay on for just a few more minutes afterwards, but before we get to the top of the hour, I wanted to see if Lori wanted to say anything to the
No.
boss to kind of finish it off here.
No, I want to thank you all for participating, for being with us here today. And look forward to talking with you all again in the near future. There will be more.
Yeah, right.
Stay in
That's right.
touch.
Let us know what you want to hear, man. And John,
Bye,
thanks so
Gail.
much.
Yep.
That was great content, John. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Please stay in touch with us. You will hear from us, but we'd love to hear from you as well. So if anybody has any specific questions, we can spend a minute or two afterwards on the Zoom call here. So thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks.
Yep. See you later. I'll hang on here.
Yeah, I gotta figure. I don't know how we. Hold on. Let's see if we can unmute everybody. I think. All right. I gave you all the ability to unmute yourself. So if you
Hi.
had a question,
May I
Yolanda, sure, of course.
start, if I may? Well, you heard me talk many times, connections or anyone that really can open the door for me. Today's presentation really got into the really nooks, missing opportunity. But I just did not have the how to approach. I thank you, John, because this clear and you've made it in such a way that with a vivid example, so there are no more excuses. Utilize those connections that I've made through the many years I've been into advocacy to really start in implementing and growing my group. Thank you very much. It was more than anything a comment because this is important. No more complaints on my side that I don't know how to get into the door. Thank you. And I hope others, this also cleared the path for other groups as well.
Thanks, guys. Anybody else have anything else?
What the hell she doing on?
I'm sorry, was there another question there? Taryn?
Yeah, Taryn, did you have a question? Oh, she's muted again.
Well, let's see, let's ask her to unmute.
No, I didn't have a question. I just want to say thank you for the presentation. I really learned a lot. It was very, very informative, and I'm really grateful to be on the call. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, may I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Of course.
My name is Neena Rao. I live in Ocala, Florida. However, I work for children with special needs in India. And your presentation was very, very informative. Thank you so much. And in fact, I could see some of the things I do practice myself from what you said. Some of those things I have been practicing also. However, there's much to learn, and which I did from your talk. So my one question was, will this recording be available on the website of Family Cafe?
Yes.
Because I would like to study it more.
It will.
And
It will.
I do see. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nina.
And,
Joe, are you going to edit out my comments about moonshine?
No, that's staying in. Hey, I just want to let everybody know we are going to put this on the website. It is recording, and I'm going to end it here in a moment. But yeah, so give us a day or two. We'll have it on the website.
Great. Thanks so much. And secondly, I wanted to know if a possibility of, the scope of Family Cafe, is it only within United States that you do these webinars, or can we extend it internationally as well in future, like say this kind of a talk? Can we organize it for,
Sure.
NGOs working
Yeah.
internationally?
I understand the question. I would almost defer to Lori a little bit on that, but let me give it a shot. I mean, we don't limit this to anybody, in Florida. I mean, we had many folks on today from other states. We had a nice showing from South Dakota. So if you guys are still on, so I don't,
Hey, Lauren.
assuming it's relevant to what they need to learn. Yeah, I don't see why somebody couldn't join us from anywhere on the planet. Sure.
Yeah, the only challenge really is time zone. So
Right.
if someone wants to come on and participate in the middle of the night, if they happen to be around the world, this could
Sure.
be. I think the Family Cafe's scope and influence as it grows nationally. Actually, it already is international. At least from my perspective, because when I have made international presentations, I have spoken about the Family Cafe as well. So it's a great question, Nina. And if there's anyone that you'd like to ever invite to future presentations, feel free.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. And I hope your email ID is available on the website too, right?
My
like
email,
in case if I need to get in touch with any of you.
Yeah, you can contact Joe via the website. My email is actually at the end of the PowerPoint document that Joe sent to you.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that.
Thanks, guys. Anybody else? Any other questions before we Thank you.
I want to say thank you, John, and thank you from this. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye.
Joe, did you want to get back on?
No,
Okay.
no,
All right.
I'll give you a buzz.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.